One day he was hosting his late-night show, Gutfeld, and sparring with his co-hosts on The Five. The next, he was gone. No explanations, no farewell episode, just silence. Fans were confused, and the internet quickly filled with speculation. Was he fired? Had Fox News silenced him over a controversial segment? Maybe he was caught up in internal conflicts within the network. Some even wondered if there was a health issue. After all, sudden disappearances from TV rarely mean something good. What could possibly pull one of Fox News' biggest stars away from the spotlight? Let's find out. Greg Gutfeld's rise to fame. Greg Gutfeld has become one of Fox News' most recognizable figures, known for his witty, sarcastic, and often unconventional approach to political commentary. But how did he get here? Let's take a closer look at his journey and what makes him such a unique voice in conservative media. Gutfeld's career didn't start in television. In fact, he was a writer and editor long before he ever appeared on Fox News. He started at the American Spectator, before moving on to Men's Health and later becoming the editor-in-chief of Maxim UK. His satirical writing style stood out, and he eventually landed at the Huffington Post, where he was known for his sharp, often comedic takes on current events. It wasn't long before Fox News saw his potential. In 2007, he was given his first show, Red Eye, a late-night satirical program that mixed politics with humor. The show gained a cult following, and Gutfeld's unique style, blending humor with conservative viewpoints, began to define his brand. Gutfeld's next big step came in 2011 when he became one of the co-hosts of The Five, a roundtable discussion show that tackled the day's biggest political stories. His role on the show solidified his reputation as a conservative voice with a comedic twist. While some of his co-hosts took a more traditional political pundit approach, Gutfeld added humor, sarcasm, and quick-witted commentary, making the show more engaging for viewers. His popularity on The Five helped propel his career, and Fox News saw an opportunity to expand his presence. That led to the launch of Gutfeld in 2021, a late-night talk show aimed at competing with mainstream late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel. Gutfeld, a conservative alternative to late night. The launch of Gutfeld was a game-changer for Fox News.
Losers attack Tesla, mock SpaceX.
Traditional late-night shows on networks like CBS, NBC, and ABC have long been dominated by liberal voices. But Gutfeld offered something different, a conservative take on current events mixed with his signature humor. His show quickly became a ratings success, even surpassing Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel in total viewers at times. One of the reasons for Gutfeld's success is its appeal to audiences who feel left out by mainstream late-night comedy. While other hosts often mock conservative politicians and policies, Gutfeld flips the script, taking aim at liberal figures and media narratives. Gutfeld's ability to blend humor with serious political analysis sets him apart from other Fox News hosts. While he aligns with conservative values, he's not afraid to criticize both sides of the political spectrum. His quick-witted jokes, satirical monologues, and willingness to challenge conventional narratives make his show stand out in the crowded media landscape. His success also proves that conservative comedy has an audience, something many in Hollywood have long doubted. By consistently delivering strong ratings, he has carved out a niche that few others have successfully filled. But after reaching such heights of fame, where did he suddenly disappear? The sudden disappearance. One day, everything seemed normal until it wasn't. A well-known figure, someone who was always in the public eye, suddenly vanished without a trace. No warning, no goodbyes, just gone. At first, people assumed it was a temporary absence, maybe a break from the spotlight, maybe a personal matter. But as days turned into weeks, and then into months, speculation ran wild. What happened? Had they chosen to disappear? Were they forced into hiding? Or was something far more sinister at play? Theories began circulating like wildfire. Some believed it was a carefully planned escape, a deliberate step away from public scrutiny. Others were convinced that something terrible had happened, something the world wasn't being told. Friends and colleagues stayed silent, adding to the mystery. And as the media dug deeper, unsettling details began to emerge, only making the situation more baffling. The question remained, how could someone so visible simply vanish? And more importantly, why? Viewers first picked up on Gutfeld's absence when he missed several episodes of The Five and his late-night show Gutfeld in early December 2024. Initially, there was no official statement from Fox News, and this radio silence only fueled the mystery. Some fans took to social media, genuinely concerned about his well-being. "Mazel tov, Greg, we were so concerned," one fan tweeted after the truth was finally revealed. Another commented, "I was seriously getting nervous and sad, but Kat Timpf has had some real moments while you were gone. I was in tears a couple of times." Others, however, turned the situation into a joke. Some theorized that Gutfeld had been fired, while others speculated that he had taken time off for health reasons. But the longer Fox News stayed quiet, the more rumors spread. Was he sick? Had he quit? Or had something even bigger happened behind the scenes? As the days went by, social media was buzzing with theories. Some fans suspected a health crisis, while others were convinced that Gutfeld had been secretly let go. The lack of any official comment only made matters worse. On X, formerly Twitter, one user wrote, "Did Fox fire Greg? What's going on?" Others responded with memes, poking fun at the situation. Meanwhile, some fans turned to his co-hosts for answers. Dana Perino and Jesse Waters continued hosting The Five, but neither mentioned Gutfeld's absence. On Gutfeld, guest hosts filled in, but without a word about why he was missing. The emotional announcement. Well, the world of political commentary is rarely a place for deeply personal revelations. However, on one episode of The Five, viewers witnessed something truly unexpected. An emotional and heartfelt announcement from Dana Perino that left both co-hosts and the audience stunned. What began as an ordinary discussion quickly transformed into a deeply personal and moving moment, as Perino took a breath, steadied herself, and delivered news that no one saw coming. As the segment unfolded, Dana Perino, known for her poised and professional demeanor, visibly softened. With a rare mix of excitement and sentimentality in her voice, she turned to the camera and said something that immediately commanded attention. "I have some wonderful news to share, something that's going to surprise a lot of you." The room fell silent. Even the typically sharp-witted Jesse Waters, always ready with a quip, simply leaned forward intrigued. Then, with a warm smile and a hint of emotion, she continued, "You might have noticed that our friend Greg Gutfeld hasn't been here for a couple of weeks, and it's for a good reason. This is a statement that he sent me today, so I'm reading this as if I'm Greg. It is with great joy that my wife Elena and I have welcomed a baby girl into the world. Myra is healthy with a real set of lungs. She has Elena's beautiful eyes and my rock-hard abs. We are hard at work teaching her 3 languages and putting her through rigorous workout routines. She is already very observant and has asked if Jesse wears a toupee. I told her that he definitely wears a wig." For a moment, there was a collective pause. The weight of the announcement took a second to sink in. Greg Gutfeld, the quick-thinking, often sarcastic, and notoriously private host, was now a father. This was a revelation no one had anticipated. The emotional reaction from his co-hosts. As soon as Perino shared the news, the panel's reactions varied from sheer astonishment to heartfelt joy. Jesse Waters, typically the first to make a humorous remark, instead sat back with an expression of genuine surprise before breaking into a grin. "Wait, are you serious?" he finally asked, shaking his head in disbelief. Judge Janine Pirro, always outspoken, beamed with excitement. "That's incredible news! Greg, a dad? I can't believe it," she exclaimed, her voice filled with warmth. Harold Ford Jr., known for his measured approach, nodded and added, "This is the best kind of surprise." The discussion quickly turned into a chorus of celebration. The group speculated on what kind of father Gutfeld would be. Would his signature wit carry over into his parenting style? Would he be the kind of dad to tell dad jokes or go completely soft for his little girl? The consensus was clear. Fatherhood would bring out an entirely new side of Greg Gutfeld, one that his colleagues and his audience had never seen before. Well, for years, Greg Gutfeld had built a career on his sharp humor, intellectual debates, and often irreverent take on politics and culture. He never shied away from controversial topics, but when it came to his personal life, he was notoriously private. While his marriage to Elena Musa was known to the public, he rarely spoke about their life together beyond the occasional quip or anecdote. So when Perino revealed that Greg and Elena had welcomed a baby girl into their lives, It was nothing short of shocking. There had been no hints, no public discussions, and certainly no indication that fatherhood was on Gutfeld's radar. The revelation wasn't just surprising, it was downright unprecedented. Viewers, much like the co-hosts, were left reeling. Social media quickly erupted with reactions ranging from disbelief to pure joy. Fans flooded comment sections expressing their amazement and offering congratulations. Many admitted that they had never once imagined Gutfeld stepping into the role of a father, but now that it had happened, they couldn't wait to see what kind of dad he would be. Why this was so unexpected. One of the reasons this announcement made such waves was that Greg Gutfeld had never publicly discussed plans for fatherhood. In fact, in the past, he had often joked about the idea of having kids in a way that suggested he wasn't particularly interested in it. His on-air persona was built around sharp commentary, humor, and often a bit of mischief. But rarely, if ever, did he hint at a desire to become a parent. Adding to the shock was the way in which the news was delivered. Unlike celebrity announcements that often come through social media or carefully curated interviews, this was a genuine moment of surprise, unveiled live on television by a close friend and colleague. There was no grand press release, no months of speculation, just an honest and heartfelt statement that took everyone off guard. But perhaps that's exactly why it resonated so deeply. In an industry where everything is carefully scripted and curated, this moment felt real. It was raw, emotional, and filled with genuine reactions from people who had just learned something monumental about someone they considered a friend. As the news continues to settle in, the big question remains: how will fatherhood change Greg Gutfeld? Will we see a softer side of him on the 5? Will his humor take on a new dimension as he navigates the world of diapers, sleepless nights, and baby giggles? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: this unexpected twist in Greg Gutfeld's life has given his fans and colleagues a whole new reason to celebrate. Now let's see how this all started. A love story that started in Portugal. Greg Gutfeld's love life has been as intriguing as his career, filled with unexpected turns, past relationships, and an eventual love story that would change his life forever. While today he is known for his strong and private marriage with Helena Musa, his journey to finding the one was anything but simple. Before meeting Helena, Greg was no stranger to the dating world. In his younger years, particularly during his rise in media, he was known for being charismatic, witty, and at times controversial. Working in the fast-paced, high-energy world of media meant that relationships often came and went. While not much is publicly known about his early flings, it's rumored that Greg had his fair share of brief romances, some of which ended on less than ideal terms. His career as a magazine editor placed him in an environment filled with glamorous events, networking parties, and constant travel, factors that made maintaining serious relationships difficult. There were whispers of casual flings with models and fellow journalists, but none of these relationships turned into anything long-term. During his time as an editor at Maxim UK, Greg was surrounded by high-profile figures in the entertainment industry. Some sources suggest he briefly dated a few well-known personalities, but these relationships remained unconfirmed. While Greg never had a scandal in the traditional sense, his often unapologetic humor and edgy takes sometimes put him at odds with the women he dated, leading to breakups before anything serious could develop. However, all of that changed when he met Helena Musa in Portugal. The fateful meeting in Portugal. In the early 2000s, Greg was attending a Maxim magazine event in Portugal. At the time, he was working as the editor-in-chief of Maxim UK, a role that gave him access to some of the biggest industry events across Europe. This particular event was a gathering of international Maxim editors, and among the attendees was Helena Musa, a Russian-born model and fashion stylist working with Maxim Russia. Greg was immediately drawn to Helena. Unlike the flings of his past, she had an air of mystery, sophistication, and confidence that captivated him. She wasn't just another person in the industry. She was someone who carried herself with elegance and intelligence. Greg later admitted that he was mesmerized from the moment he saw her. However, winning her over was no easy task. Helena wasn't immediately impressed by Greg's usual humor and sarcasm. She was stylish, well-traveled, and had a sharp mind of her own. Some accounts suggest that Greg's first few attempts to woo her were met with polite indifference. Unlike others, Elena wasn't easily charmed by his humor or media status. She had built her own successful career and wasn't looking for superficial connections. But Greg was persistent. He knew he had found someone special, and he wasn't going to let her slip away. The pursuit and the turning point. Realizing that humor alone wouldn't work, Greg shifted his approach. He started engaging with Elena on a deeper level, showing a more thoughtful and serious side of himself. They had long conversations about culture, media, and life in general. Slowly, he began to break through her initial reservations. As the days of the event went on, something changed. Elena saw a different side of Greg, one that wasn't just the quick-witted TV personality, but a person who was genuinely interested in her, someone who was willing to put in the effort to know her beyond the surface. By the time they left Portugal, Greg knew he wanted to be with Elena. The problem? She lived in Russia, and he was based in the UK at the time. But distance wasn't going to stop him. After their initial meeting, Greg and Elena stayed in touch. What started as occasional conversations turned into daily communication. Greg, who had never been known for being overly romantic, found himself making time for her despite his hectic career. Long-distance relationships are never easy, and theirs was no exception. There were moments of doubt, miscommunication, and the challenges that come with being in different time zones. But what set them apart was their commitment to making it work. Greg visited Russia whenever he could, and Elena made trips to see him as well. Their bond strengthened with every visit. What started as a casual connection in Portugal turned into something undeniable. Eventually, the distance became too much to bear. They made the decision to be together permanently, and Elena moved to New York, where Greg was now working. The wedding and a new life together. In 2004, Greg and Elena got married in a small, intimate ceremony. Unlike many public figures, they chose to keep their wedding private, surrounded only by close friends and family. Their marriage surprised many who had followed Greg's career. He had never been one to openly discuss serious relationships, yet here he was, committing to a lifelong partnership. The man who once joked about not settling down had found someone who changed his perspective on love. Over the years, their relationship has remained remarkably private. Greg occasionally mentions Elena in interviews or on his shows, but never in a way that exposes too much of their personal life. They've built a life that is separate from the public eye, choosing to focus on their own happiness rather than the scrutiny of the media. Their journey wasn't one of instant romance or fairy tale perfection. It was built on effort, understanding, and a willingness to fight for what they had. And in the end, it led to something neither of them could have predicted: their beautiful daughter Mira, and a love that has stood the test of time. The first few weeks as a father. For years, Greg Gutfeld built his career around sharp wit, unfiltered opinions, and a no-nonsense attitude. But nothing, not his years in the media, not his countless debates, not even his quick comebacks, could have prepared him for the reality of fatherhood. The moment his daughter Mira arrived, everything changed. Becoming a father is a life-altering experience for anyone, but for Greg, it was a complete shift in his world. He had spent years making sarcastic remarks about parenthood, joking about diaper disasters and sleepless nights. Now he was living those very moments in real time. The first few nights were an absolute whirlwind. As someone used to structured routines and work deadlines, adjusting to a baby's unpredictable schedule was overwhelming. And yet, amid the chaos, there were moments of pure joy. The first time he held Mira in his arms, the overwhelming feeling of responsibility mixed with an almost surreal happiness. Every little stretch, yawn, and sleepy smile from his daughter felt like a victory. Of course, Greg wouldn't be Greg without adding his signature humor to the situation. When he first announced the birth of his daughter, he made sure to keep things lighthearted. "She's already got rock-hard abs," he joked. "At this rate, she'll be hosting her own show by age 5. Fans loved it. They expected nothing less from the king of sarcasm. But what made it even funnier was the fact that behind all the jokes, Greg was completely serious about fatherhood. He shared how changing diapers felt like defusing a bomb with no training, and how baby formula smelled like something created in a lab for torture. But even with all the complaints, it was clear he was completely smitten with Mira. Greg Gutfeld becoming a father was something no one saw coming. The news spread like wildfire, and the reactions were nothing short of legendary. The moment Greg announced the birth of his daughter, fans flooded social media with jokes, memes, and messages of surprise. Gutfeld, a dad? This is the biggest plot twist of 2024. Can't wait for the baby's first words to be a sarcastic remark. This kid is going to have the best comebacks in kindergarten. Over the years, Greg had made a name for himself as a polarizing figure. People either loved him or hated him. But when the news of his daughter's birth broke, even some of his biggest critics couldn't help but congratulate him. One journalist, who had often debated Greg on air, wrote, "We may disagree on everything, but I have to admit, fatherhood suits him," wishing him and his family the best. Others speculated whether this new chapter would change Greg's approach to his commentary. Would he be less cynical? More sentimental? Some believed that becoming a dad would add a new layer to his on-screen personality. Greg, however, reassured fans that while fatherhood was changing him in many ways, his sense of humor and sharp takes weren't going anywhere. Will his comedic style change after becoming a father? Greg Gutfeld has built his reputation on sharp wit, political satire, and no-holds-barred humor. His brand of comedy often treads the line between irreverent and insightful, making him a unique voice in late-night television and news commentary. However, becoming a father at 60 presents an intriguing question. Will fatherhood soften Gutfeld's comedic edge? Historically, major life changes, especially parenthood, have influenced comedians and commentators. Figures like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert have incorporated their family experiences into their shows, shifting their tone slightly to include more personal reflections. Gutfeld may follow suit, though it's unlikely he will completely abandon his signature style. Instead, he may weave in occasional references to fatherhood while keeping his political humor intact. On Gutfeld, which competes with traditional late-night shows, his humor is often sharp and contrasts with mainstream comedians. This fatherhood milestone might allow him to introduce a more personal, relatable layer to his monologues, making his show more accessible to audiences who appreciate seeing a more humanized version of their favorite commentators. Gutfeld has long been known as a workaholic, balancing multiple roles at Fox News, including co-hosting The Five and Gutfeld. Many high-profile figures in the media juggle demanding schedules while prioritizing family. Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Anderson Cooper have all spoken about the challenges of balancing their media careers with parenthood. Gutfeld's situation is particularly interesting given his age and the late arrival of this major life event. While it's unlikely that he will step away from his primary roles, he might shift his work-life balance slightly. His ability to work remotely and pre-record segments for Gutfeld may help him navigate fatherhood while maintaining his presence on Fox News. Will he share more personal stories on his show? Gutfeld has been relatively private about his personal life, especially in comparison to some of his Fox News colleagues. While he occasionally mentions his wife, Elena Musa, in interviews and books, he has largely kept his home life separate from his on-air persona. Now, with the birth of his daughter, fans may see a different side of him. Other conservative commentators like Ben Shapiro and Dan Bongino have blended personal anecdotes with political commentary, giving their shows a more personal touch. Gutfeld could incorporate lighthearted fatherhood stories into Gutfeld and The Five, making his commentary more relatable without losing his signature humor. If anything, fatherhood may serve as a new wellspring of comedic material, especially given his history of making fun of millennials and Gen Z. He now has a front-row seat to a new generation's upbringing. One of the most significant questions is whether Gutfeld's shows will change in tone or content. While his late-night show thrives on edgy humor and sharp critiques, he may introduce a softer, more reflective tone in certain segments. This doesn't mean he'll become a sentimentalist overnight, but fans may notice a more well-rounded approach. The Five is known for its diverse perspectives and heated debates. His co-hosts, including Dana Perino and Jesse Waters, may engage him in more discussions about parenting and fatherhood, adding a fresh layer to the panel's chemistry. While Gutfeld's show often focuses on politics, pop culture, and current events, fatherhood might broaden his range of topics. He could introduce comedic bits on modern parenting, schooling, or the generational divide, topics that resonate with a broad audience. Well, Gutfeld's transition into fatherhood is a major milestone, not just for him, but for his audience. As a commentator known for his sarcastic wit and political sharpness, seeing him embrace a deeply personal role brings a new dimension to his public persona. People appreciate stories of transformation, especially when they involve individuals known for toughness revealing their softer side. Just as political figures and media personalities like Joe Rogan and Dave Rubin have evolved after becoming parents, Gutfeld's new role as a father makes him more relatable. This story resonates because it humanizes a man who, for decades, has been a dominant voice in conservative media. Parenthood often challenges and refines individuals. And for someone as outspoken as Gutfeld, it will be interesting to see how he integrates this personal experience into his professional life. Will he joke about sleep deprivation? Will he talk about baby-proofing his house? Or will he use his platform to discuss fatherhood from a conservative perspective? The possibilities are endless. If you want to stay updated on how fatherhood is changing Greg Gutfeld, whether it's his humor, his shows, or his personal outlook, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Here we bring you everything you need to know about your favorite commentators, the latest media shifts, and the stories that matter. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.